Again， 大家好，欢迎大家来参加我们的午间中文。我是伸展 ，My name is 伸展。Welcome to our lunch hour Mandarin。和我一起的还有我的 co-host，燕杰。燕杰
Hello, everyone.
And then two facilitators，李月。
Hi, everyone.
And Andy。
Hi, 大家好。
Yeah, again, looking forward, well, with so many old and new friends to having this 30-minute session to read a poem in Chinese, and hope you enjoy learning and practicing as well. As a reminder, the session will be recorded and uploaded to China Institute's YouTube channel for future reference. Now, let's get started. So we can see the screen, right? I have been showing a photo of the exterior of China Institute. This also shows the inside of China Institute when we had a music chat program in February in Lower Manhattan. Looking forward to have the day to have the normal day when we can be back for poetry reading in Chinese on site. This week, we want to share with you 武陵春. Here, 武陵春 by 李清照. 李清照 from 11th to 12th century. 武陵, in fact, is the name of a place. So you can see the English title. How come in the translation it became Peach Blossom Land? Here is a literal reference you may encounter during your studying Chinese. 武陵 comes from a famous prose, a record of the Peach Blossom Land, 桃花源记, in the 5th century, describing a Shangri-La-like land that's secluded from the outside world and where there is only peace and harmony. In this version of the translation, 许渊冲, that's the name of the translator, 许渊冲, 许渊冲, a famous translator and professor of Peking University, directly reveals the hidden meaning of 武陵as it refers to 桃花源, the peach blossom land in the title. Li Qingzhao is the greatest woman poet in classical Chinese literature. So in case it's not obvious, this is not her photo, just a painting from the Qin dynasty, almost 600 or 700 years later. If you Google her name, either in English or Chinese, you will find many images of her, or I would say romanticized images of her. China's literary history is dominated by men since literature in writing. This is not surprising, as with many other cultures. And precisely for this reason, Li Qingzhao stands out not only in China's history, but the world's literary history as a prominent poet, known even at her time. We know that Li Qingzhao was born into a family of learning and political power and married to a man with an official post in the Northern Song dynasty court. By the way, her husband also was quite cultured, as many officials in China's court throughout the dynasties often were. He was widely known as an expert of bronzes. Li Qingzhao's life was nevertheless not without tragedies, as the dynasty she lived through decayed into chaos because of wars with northern nomads. So here, this map tells the chaotic time of Song dynasty she lived through. You could see this white area outlines China's current territory, more or less, and the highlighted areas are the territory of China during Song dynasty. Li Qingzhao lived through the Song dynasty right during the years, splitting the dynasty into the northern Bei Song and the southern Nan Song periods. She had to flee from her home in the north, that's mostly here in Shandong province, in today's Shandong province. She had to quickly flee to the south without her family or her belongings and her husband. Eventually, they reunited in the southern parts of China, but not long after her husband died. And eventually, she found herself wandering here and there in the southeastern part of China. The date of her passing is unknown. So navigating the turbulences in life, Li Qingzhao matured into a Ci poet. Ci means poetic tune. It is a major literary genre that emerged during the Tang Dynasty. Some of you may remember Du Fu, and thrived in the Song Dynasty during Li Qingzhao's time. Today and next Monday, we will read 3 Ci poems by Li Qingzhao. So you may wonder why we devote so much time with her. Simply because we love her poems so much. By we, I mean, you probably can see all the hosts, Yanjie, Andy, Li Yue, and myself. We instantly suggested our own favorite of her poems, and it's very hard to pick one over the other. So please bear with or indulge us to have 2 parts of Li Qingzhao. Today, the general introduction, which I just did, and 1 poem. Next Monday, we will read 2 shorter poems. And we can start the first poem today. Sorry, there was an interruption. Again, 武陵春. So I would invite everyone, if you're new to this, to repeat after me, just to mimic the pronunciation as closely as you can. 武陵春. Here is the English translation of the first part. So in many Ci poems, there are 2 parts. We call the first part 上阙. And we will start with 上阙 first. 风住沉香花已尽。风住沉香花已尽。I could hear a background noise. If you haven't muted yourself, could you please? Yeah, so that we can or not interrupting each other. Thank you. 日晚卷梳头。日晚卷梳头。物是人非事事休。物是人非事事休。I just want to pause to talk about the translation here a little bit. I love Xu Yuanchong's translation. But with this line, I myself find the English is a little bit too narrow. 人 doesn't necessarily mean he or even any particular person in my reading. And of course, any poems are subject to the reader's interpretations, right? So to me, it could, depending on how you as a reader resonates with the line. The translation can be referring to losing a man makes everything changed in one's world. Oops. Or it could be somebody loved by the poet or a loved one in general sense, or even can refer to the poet or the reader, him or herself. So it really, just like 诗, 唐诗, the Tang poetry, it can be subjected to many different interpretations. So to me, more it's like things are the same, people have all been different, and it feels like everything has to be put into rest. And also note, 物是人非, this four character phrase now is a quite common idiom, even being used today. Last line for 上阙. 欲语泪先流，欲语泪先流。So here is the entire part 1 for this poem. We can go over this slowly again together. 风住沉香，花已尽，日晚倦梳头。物是人非，事事休。欲语泪先流。This is part 2. We call that 下阙. So there's 上, the upper, and 下, the lower. Wen, 说，双溪，春，上，好。闻说双溪，春上好。也，你，饭，轻，粥。也你，饭轻粥。只，恐。So these two words together, 只恐。双溪，则猛。粥，只恐双溪，则猛粥。在，不动。许，多。愁，在不动。许多愁。So this is 下阙. 闻说双溪，春尚好。野拟泛轻舟，只恐双溪舴猛舟。再不动，许多愁。Take a look at the entire poem again. This is 词, the poetic tune, compared to 诗 from Tang Dynasty, the major form from Tang Dynasty. Just at the very surface level, we can tell it is more relaxed in terms of its form. Each line has a different number of characters. However, don't be fooled that it's all up to the poet to decide how many characters to use for each line. In fact, the pattern, that is, the number of characters, sounds, rhythms, etc., have all predetermined by the music tune, which is reflected in the title, 武陵春. Many 词 have been composed following this tune, particularly 武陵春 tune, and all of them will be titled will be called as 武陵春. This is effectively a lyric written by Li Qingzhao for this particular tune. A 词 poet naturally has to know music. Of course, choice of words and meanings can completely depend on the 词 poet. Unlike 诗 in Tang Dynasty, words chosen for 词 can sometimes be both poetic and colloquial. So, for example, in this particular 词 poem, there are phrases, like I mentioned, 物是人非, we're still using today, and even like this one, 再不动，许多愁，再不动. So this verb plus 不 plus result, we're still encountering quite a lot in colloquial Chinese. 你说话太轻，我听不见. You speak too softly, I cannot hear. 这个字太难，我看不懂. The character is too difficult, I cannot understand. I try to look, I try to read, but I cannot understand. 我太饱了，吃不下. I'm still quite full, I cannot eat. 我的书包太重，我跑不快. My backpack is too heavy, I cannot run fast. So this is still a quite useful pattern, even in today's colloquial Chinese. So that's it for today's poem of Li Qingzhao and the intro to her 词 poem.